Hey there, 8th grade learners, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are setting out on a seriously fascinating journey through history today, exploring the vital topics of citizenship and culture. We're going to rewind the clock back to the 19th century, which was just a time of massive, ground-shaking shifts in society. And we're not just going to talk about what happened. We're going to dig into the actual mechanics of how everyday people stood up, organized, and literally changed their world for the better. So this isn't about memorizing a bunch of dusty dates. It's about understanding the actual engine of progress. Let's get into it. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with Section 1, the Blueprint for Change. Then Section 2, Mapping 19th Century Reforms. After that is Section 3, The Power of Persistence, and we'll wrap up with Section 4, Education Needs Morality. So let me ask you something right off the bat. And it might seem like a simple question, but it's incredibly important. Does change happen instantly? I mean, think about a time you tried to break a bad habit, or maybe when your school tried to roll out a brand new rule. Did everybody just adapt overnight? Usually, the answer is a big, resounding no. We often look back at history and kind of assume these massive social shifts were just spontaneous light bulb moments. But the reality? Real, lasting change takes careful planning, immense effort, and a whole lot of time. All right, jumping right into Section 1, the Blueprint for Change. Here's the big secret. Every single reform movement actually follows a pretty specific blueprint. It always starts with a problem. That's our cause. Then, people apply a strategy, which is the action they take to tackle that problem. And finally, they achieve an effect, which is the actual change in society. When we map history out this way, it stops looking like a bunch of random events and starts looking like a clear, logical sequence of actions leading to real results. Moving right along to Section 2, Mapping 19th Century Reforms. Let's take that blueprint out of theory and put it to work against actual history. Let's test this out. Based on the blueprint we literally just looked at, what do you think is the absolute first step in a reform movement? What kicks the whole thing off? You got it. You have to identify the problem. I mean, before anyone grabs a megaphone or tries to change a law, someone has to look at the world around them, see an injustice, and actually care enough to say, hey, this isn't right and it needs fixing. Without pinning down that root problem, you can't even begin to build a strategy. Let's map out 3 major 19th century movements side by side using our blueprint: abolition, women's rights, and prison reform. If we track the cause, strategy, and effect for each, it's pretty amazing how they line up. For abolition, the cause was the deep moral wrong of slavery. Their strategy, passionate speeches, starting newspapers, and applying intense political pressure. The effect was the incredible achievement of emancipation and constitutional change. This structure basically takes centuries of really complex history and organizes it so you can see the exact mechanics of how our society evolved. Now, let's drill down a bit. Think back to that map for a second. How exactly did the abolition movement achieve its goal? What were they doing day to day? Spot on. They used speeches, newspapers, and direct political pressure. They didn't just sit around hoping for change. They communicated their message loudly and clearly. They got organized. Communication and organization were their main weapons to fight the moral wrong of slavery, and it was that very specific strategy that paved the way toward emancipation. Keeping that momentum going, let's pivot over to women's rights. What was the root cause that sparked this massive movement? Inequality. Plain and simple. It was the fundamental unfairness that women were facing in society, politics, and the economy. Identifying this core problem gave the movement its laser focus. It led directly to their strategy of hosting conventions like the famous one at Seneca Falls and organizing massive petitions. And all of that strategic action eventually achieved their grand effect, the 19th Amendment, which finally granted women the right to vote. Okay, let's hit our third example. Can you name just one major effect of the prison reform movement in the 19th century? What actually changed because of their hard work? The effect was improved facilities and entirely new laws protecting inmates. The root cause they were fighting was horrific overcrowding and abuse in the prison system. Advocates like Dorothea Dix didn't just complain, they used a brilliant strategy. They conducted meticulous research, wrote detailed reports, and just relentlessly advocated to the government. Their strategy directly resulted in concrete, legal, and physical changes for society's most vulnerable people. Okay, Section 3, the power of persistence. So here is a really crucial question for you to ponder. Why is persistence so important in achieving reform goals? Why isn't a brilliant strategy enough on its own? The truth is, mapping shows us how one reform can beautifully inspire others, but absolutely none of it happens if people quit when things get tough. And spoiler alert, reform always gets tough. It all comes back to a crucial point, beautifully captured in Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. History is full of people who were weary. Changing the law is exhausting. Facing down entrenched social inequality is exhausting. But the harvest, the freedom, the new rights, the better facilities, only comes to those who refuse to throw in the towel. Change takes immense, sustained effort. So let's quickly recap what we've mapped out so far, because this right here is undeniable proof of our blueprint in action. 1. All reforms begin with identifying a problem. 2. Strategies demand communication, organization, and above all, persistence. And 3. When those steps are followed, the results bring profound legal and social change to our world. And I want to throw in a quick biblical morality tip here. Every single reform movement in history began with someone caring enough to act. Micah 6:8 says, to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. That's a calling for all of us. Whether your actions are big, like leading a national movement, or small, like standing up for a classmate who's being bullied, your personal actions for justice absolutely matter, and they can make a lasting difference. Which brings us to our final part today, Section 4, Education Needs Morality. Here is a foundational, non-negotiable truth. Education without morality will hurt. Seriously, think about it. We can teach you all the historical facts, the dates, the cause and effect blueprints, but intertwining biblical morality with your education is essential for living a productive, meaningful life. Without a moral compass, knowledge can easily be used for the wrong strategies and end up creating some really terrible effects. But on the flip side, Romans 8:6-7 promises profound peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. That peace is what we want for you as you engage with this material. Because true education isn't just about passing a test, right? It's about developing a spiritual, moral mindset that brings peace to your own life and justice to the world around you. So I want to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought for today. What is the point of being smart and supposedly educated if you continue to make bad choices that hurt yourself and others? History shows us over and over that real heroes are the ones who combine their intelligence with a strong moral compass to achieve lasting, positive change. I really challenge you to reflect on your own character and the choices you make every single day. Keep learning, keep mapping out your strategies for good, and whatever you do, never give up. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.